Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting for September 20th, 2020. We first off have a subdivision authority to deal with, so I will call that meeting to order and ask for a adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Thames.
Mayor, move the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item number 3.1, minutes of regular meeting of subdivision authority, September 14th, 2020. Mr. Armfield.
Yeah, the last meeting minutes are there for your consideration towards approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll make the motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Subdivision Authority, September 14th, 2020, be approved as recommended.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 4, subdivision application, item 4.1, subdivision TT 20-0-007. Mr. Armfield.
Your Worship, we have a pretty bread and butter oriented subdivision for you this evening. Yeah, Miss Monks, if you can make it over to give us an introduction.
Thank you, Ms. Monks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. So administration has received an application for subdivision to create 3 lots out of 2 existing along 56th Avenue. The applicant has an approved development permit on the most westerly lot that will not be impacted if this application is not approved. The new lots will all meet the lot size requirements of the land use bylaw and allow for the creation of a new lot in the M2 Medium Industrial District. In the conditions of approval, administration is recommending that each lot be serviced and access provided at this time, or a deferred servicing agreement outlining that requirement be entered into and registered on the lots with the endorsement of the subdivision. This will ensure future legal means of access and highlight for any future buyers that there will be a requirement to construct as required for their development. This application was reviewed by the Municipal Planning Commission at their regular meeting on September 21st, 2020, and they have recommended that the Subdivision Authority approve the application. Upon approval, administration will then proceed with the 21-day appeal period and final endorsement of the tentative plan at land titles. Administration is recommending approval of the subdivision by the Subdivision Authority.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Garner.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make that motion at this time. The Subdivision Authority approves subdivision TT 20-0-007, Lot A, Block 2, Plan 5365L, and Lot 3, Block 2, Plan 3042JK, within the southeast quarter, Section 5, Township Road 100, Range 16, west of the 4th Meridian, civically described as 5905 and 5907 56th Avenue, with the following conditions 1 through 9 inclusive.
All right. Councillor Strauss.
Your Worship, I believe that Councillor Garner said Township 100. It's
Sorry.
Township 10.
Township 10, sorry.
All right, thank you for catching that.
Good catch, Joe.
All right, once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Just a motion to close the meeting. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to close the meeting.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I will call our regular scheduled Tabortown Council meeting to order. And we have a administration request to add an item to closed session related to the small ice arena and subject to Section 24 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. So I would suggest that go to item 9.3 for closed session and ask for an adoption of the agenda as amended. Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 3, adoption of the minutes. 3.1, minutes of regular meeting of council, September 14th, 2020. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the meeting minutes from September 14th are there for your consideration.
Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Garner.
To make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on September 14th, 2020 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4, business arising. There are none. Item 4.1, a relocation of mailbox. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I can ask Ms. Monks to come back up and guide council through this matter. You remember that there was a delegation at the last council meeting with regards to an individual requesting the change of location of a mailbox. Ms. Monks?
Thank you. Good afternoon again, Your Worship, members of council. So at the last regular meeting of council, a delegation brought forward a concern with regard to the location of a community mailbox at 5310 42nd Avenue. At that meeting, a resolution was made directing administration to engage with Canada Post to review the current location and bring forward those findings to a future council meeting. In discussions with the Canada Post representative, it was determined that potential location across the street that would meet the parameters identified by the delegation was identified as 5403 41 Avenue. And there are some maps along with your RFD. CP is requesting that if the town desires the relocation of the mailbox to this site, that we advise the homeowner of the decision prior to the move occurring. So that is the homeowner of the suggested new location. The timeframes for 2020 are tight, however, as CP typically uses October 1st as their deadline for mailbox moves, as the work will involve pouring a new concrete slab and moving the box over, which can be impacted by colder weather. In the investigation of the location, administration has also found several other locations throughout the town where the situation is essentially the same, in that the mailbox is located adjacent to a green space without benefit of a sidewalk or pathway. It can be convenient for those in vehicles to pull up and grab mail, while allowing for adequate parking and not impacting an adjacent homeowner who might have to deal with ice over sidewalks and other issues related to the traffic that a mailbox brings with it. In this particular situation, as identified in the mapping provided, portions of this lot are actually dedicated as road right-of-way. So you can see that the red bordering that property is where the actual property line is. So outside of that is road right-of-way. So it doesn't technically belong to the homeowner, however, they will still be impacted. So CP has also advised that they've increased their plans for clearance and snow shoveling for the winter on this site. And Town Public Works could also review their procedures to ensure that situations such as the one that occurred last winter are potentially minimized. Additionally, CP offers a door delivery service to residents that have a need for it. There's an application process at the post office, and they would definitely consider this situation to be one that would meet the intent of that process. Administration has provided additional information for Council's consideration and decision-making, and would request direction, as Canada Post has indicated, that time is of the essence if the town wants the community mailbox moved in 2020.
All right, thank you, Ms. Monks. Any questions arising? No questions whatsoever. Councillor Chavez.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll make the motion that council directs administration to leave the community mailbox located at 5310 42nd Avenue and to work with Canada Post to ensure snow removal occurs on a higher priority basis, ensuring residents can access the mailbox without injury.
All right, thank you. I just had one clarification question. I'm just not 100% sure why Canada Post is even asking for our input in this case when they're willing to do this.
Your Worship, the input is requested because we are contemplating locating the mailbox on another residence location. So it's not really within their realm to negotiate that type of arrangement. So that was their direct request, that they would move it if Town Council wanted that to be what occurs, but they would request that the town notify that homeowner that we were contemplating moving that mailbox onto their lot.
All right, once again, motion on the table. Any questions arising? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the motion presented by Councillor Strovas, based on the fact that the door delivery is available twice a week to the resident at no cost. I think that swayed me to support the motion. I think it's a good one.
Thank you. Once again, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? carried. Thank you. Item number 5, no bylaw requirements. Item 6.1, Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee, Mr. Armfield.
Yes, Your Worship, you'll see that the delegation is not here for this matter, and we were actually expecting that they might be a little bit late. So with that, I would suggest that, Mr. Hust, do you have your party with you?
No, they had a meeting at County of Carson County at 2 o'clock, and they were hoping to be back here in time for this meeting here. So I don't know if you want me to proceed or want to wait until.
I think it would be better if we have a couple other delegations now. It's of course up to council, but we do have a couple other delegations that'll probably take us 20 minutes to run through, and then possibly then after they're done, then
I
you're.
hear my phone's starting to buzz, so maybe that's them on their way.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation to council, that we move on with the next 2 delegations here that we have matters of business for, and then we jump back into this one when the full party is here.
All right, council in favor of that? We can do that if need be. All right, okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 6.2, proposed police commission budget, Mr. Armfield.
And for that, we have Chair Martin Sorensen of the Police Commission and Chief Graham Abellett here to talk about the operating and capital plan for the Police Commission. Please go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're here to discuss the 2021 through 2024 police budget. I have a brief narrative to read, and then I'll open up if there's any questions. The document you have before you outlines the Taber Police Commission strategic plan for 2016 through 2021 and incorporates the 2021 through 2024 3-year proposed budget, as well as the amendments to the 2021 budget. We are underway with strategic planning for 2021 through 2026, and we anticipate presentation of that plan to Commission in January of 2021. By following our strategic plan, you will see how our core services are identified. The budget requests before you are what the Taber Municipal Commission has submitted and requires ensuring that the town of Taber has adequate and effective policing as per the Commission and town's legislative requirements within the Police Act of Alberta. We are facing an ever-increasing demand on police services, police resources, and are working diligently to offset these costs with public-private partnerships within our communications centre. We have realized some real success and will continue to investigate growth in this regard. The COVID-19 pandemic caused interruption and changes to patterns of work and outputs of policing in early 2020 and continues to this day. The Taber Police Service Executive has closely examined the budget and has been able to reduce by approximately $30,000 our operating request for 2021. This is mostly achieved through the reduction in training and expense not occurring due to COVID, and the reduction in expenses associated with animal control and vet bills. Due to the alert agreement, we have also been able to increase revenues by $88,750. We have done our part to be fiscally responsible. Our budget is lean and has no contingencies. The amendment required for the 2021 budget is due to several factors. We will see a wage increase due to the negotiated wage increases for the police association that occurred in 2019. We have also been asked to contribute 50% of the FTE for a new IT position in the town. This equates to about $40,000. We believe this is necessary as we understand that the police service does draw heavily on IT resources from the town. Also, due to the accounting principle, the capital money for the new general investigative vehicle has been moved to the operating. In addition, the Commission has approved a secretary position. A lock cabinet and a laptop will be required, as well as wages. We anticipate this to be approximately $8,000 increase to the budget. We are also requesting capital purchases for 2021. These include a generator upgrade, a scene of crime camera, furniture for the patrol function, a dispatch cabinet, access control upgrades, carpet replacement, the CSO truck replacement, and our yearly police patrol vehicle replacement totaling $365,000. A 10-year capital plan has already been submitted to Council for consideration and planning. I believe that we are fiscally responsible, strategic, and work hard to ensure that every dollar provided to us by the community is spent wisely. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council accepts the Taber Police Commission 2021 to 2024 budget and policy planning as presented for the purpose of future budget deliberations by council.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Second motion.
Yep, that would be next. Yes, please. Yourself?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, then I also move that council accepts the Police Commission multi-year capital plan as presented for information and further future capital budget deliberations.
Good, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Good, thank you. On to item 6.3, 911 Town of Taber and City of Medicine Hat. Mr. Armfeld.
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Abella pronto. He can explain this one. It's essentially a backup system for our 911 service here in town. Go ahead, Mr.
All right, thank you, Chief Abella.
Your Worship, members of council. So we've had a agreement with the City of Medicine Hat for some time. That agreement needed refreshing and updating, and Public Safety Communications Manager Dana Bell and Paul Bassetti from the City of Medicine Hat came together to create the MOU, and requires the signing of council to be approved, or the mayor and the CEO to be approved, and we bring this before you today for that agreement to be approved and move forward.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that council accepts the 911 backup agreement between the Town of Taber and the City of Medicine Hat and directs the Chief Administrative Officer and Mayor to sign the agreement.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering, did you have a question also?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for the chief. The agreement with the City of Medicine Hat, is that a brand new agreement, or is that just a continuation of a present agreement?
It's a continuation of a present agreement, but the present agreement wasn't as formalized as this document.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you.
Excuse?
Absolutely, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, in our group, we're still waiting on just the one individual still here.
Yes, and I would recommend that we move on to Ms. Corson here. And
Do that? Yes, absolutely. Item 6.4, community grant application, Taber District Health Foundation, Mr. Armfield.
She's lucky with some good timing. Ms. Corson, please go ahead and make your request of council.
Ms. Corson, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good,
folks?
thank you.
Good. Mr. Mayor and council members, the Taber and District Health Foundation is an important organization within our town and MD. And this year, because of COVID, we are unable to host our usual telethon that we've had for 25 years and has helped to raise over $6 million for our community, which supports our health center, as well as community organizations, both in the town and outside the town. So because of the changes due to COVID, we've had to think outside the box, and this year we are going to host instead a drive-in concert. This is happening with other organizations within our province, and so really we're not reinventing the wheel because it is already happening. This year on October 24th, George Canyon and Aaron Pritchett will be coming to play 2 one-hour concerts, drive-in style, so folks will not be allowed to leave their vehicles. They will listen through an FM transmission, and so what we would like to offer you is an opportunity to sponsor with us this event. We will not put a price. I know most people are coming with some idea of funds that they would like from you, but we would like you to consider the sponsorship advantage of front row seating. We have already spoken with the MD of Taber, and they are providing for us some painting of the lines, site preparation for the event itself, safety vests as well as flashlights. So we have got that partnership with them already. There's other organizations within our community and businesses that are already sponsoring in with us. So yeah, that's my presentation.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, to Ms. Corzine here. Is there a cost for these entertainers to come and do this, or they do this? So can you alleviate us, or is that confidential?
No, I can tell you. So to bring in the performers, it's $47,000. Yes. We initially had looked to have Corb Lund come, and we had a verbal agreement with him he would be here, and that cost was dramatically less. However, even with the stage, the lights, the production company, that was still going to put it above $50,000. So having these folks come is actually cheaper than having Corb Lund come at the time. Yes.
Right. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Corzine, exactly where is this being held?
It's going to be at the Tabor Agriplex.
Okay.
Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Additional question. How are you going to make money?
We're not making money on the concert. We already know that. What we're making money on is the donations that come prior to the event, just like we would with the telethon. So traditionally, the telethon brings in over $200,000. We're also hosting an online 50-50 and a text to donate the day of the concert.
Thank you. Any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that council approves the community grant application request for the Tabor District Health Foundation and event in the amount of $5,000.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll move on to item 6.5, declaration request cerebral palsy day. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, this matter stands on its own. The information is within your request for decision, and there has been correspondence requesting the designation of this date.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council accepts the correspondence request from the Cerebral Palsy Alberta for information purposes only.
Good, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.6, downtown design guidelines. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I'm throwing this one back over to Ms. Monks to present the document.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. So administration has been working on the downtown design guidelines as identified in the strategic plan. At the regular meeting of council on June 8th, 2020, a draft was presented in order to obtain direction to begin public consultation. The plan was then advertised in the Tabor Times and placed online on the planning website for public review and comment. The document has been to the Municipal Planning Commission for review and comment at the June 15th and August 10th meetings. Administration has drafted this guide internally with public input. As you can see, we've tailored this guide, and actually, Mr. Armfield, do you want me to?
I'll drive. You can
Excellent.
look after your back. Where would you like me to go to, sir?
There's a PowerPoint presentation towards
yes.
the end. Great. So administration has drafted this guide internally. We've tailored the guide to the lands from the skate park, there's a map, and community center through to our currently established downtown as identified in the land use bylaw. Next slide. The intent of this guide is to provide direction for future development and redevelopment in the area with an aim to enrich our downtown for residents, visitors, and businesses. We would aim to increase pedestrian traffic and improve visibility or viability for our downtown businesses. Our goal is to create a sense of place that lingers after someone has left the downtown. Planning would use this guide in reviewing future applications for development. The key principles are addressed in the next few slides. Many of the principles address the building and facade. It pushes for varied buildings that complement each other and form an alluring pedestrian space. Smaller details would include the lighting and signage that provides further character to the streets and walkways and adds dimensions to the buildings. Where there is sufficient space or for seasonal use, we would like to encourage businesses to spill out into the public realm. This could be in for some form of patios, outdoor retail, or sidewalk games. A busy downtown is a successful downtown. Enhancing large parking areas with landscaping and amenities around the edges is also encouraged. Town considerations under this plan will encourage items such as ensuring that future maintenance and repair plans provide enough space for all types of pedestrian travel where possible, including having sufficient space for wheelchairs to pass each other or reviewing potential bicycle traffic options as growth progresses. The placement of trees, benches, water fill bottle-up stations, and other potential landscaping amenities would create a more comfortable environment for pedestrians to remain in the downtown for longer periods of time during various forms of weather. Recommendations under this plan include a town theme and colors. This is also a consistent theme that you'll see in the upcoming Gateway Plan and would further speak to a sense of place. So we would look at, we have some discrepancies with the colors of our logos and different color themes that we have going on in town. We'd like to take a look at coming up with one theme for development and use that just to identify Taber by a color or a logo or a sign. Downtown wayfinding, potentially a central kiosk and some mapping. Initiatives for underutilized spaces. This could be an opportunity for murals or activity areas for street games, that type of activity. And a historical building inventory. This would provide opportunities for tourism and educational knowledge, so we could share that information with the museum, the chamber in their building, and just kind of encourage that historical look of the downtown. We would like to have a downtown parking assessment completed. This item was mentioned in the public consultation and at Municipal Planning Commission, just determining areas of high and low demand, providing opportunities for those spaces during low demand, and looking at ways to address certain issues during high peaks, such as closer to pedestrian walkways where you might have shorter vehicles only allowed in those areas. So council endorsement of this plan will allow administration the direction to move forward with additional study and projects, while using the document to also provide backup for grant applications and project partnering initiatives with developers and other downtown organizations. The document is meant to provide a long-term direction and provide potential opportunities for consideration to assist in achieving that sense of place that council is seeking in our strategic plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Someone ready to make a motion? Councillor Garner.
Yes, thank you for all your work. It's very comprehensive and very good. And this time I'm prepared to make a motion that council endorses the downtown design guidelines as presented.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to make a
Okay,
motion.
all right.
Thank you.
Just clarifying. All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.7, gateway signage. Mr. Armfield.
Similarly, they've been working on another document. Ms. Monks, can you take us through that one?
Just in case you're not tired of me, Your Worship, members of council. So administration has also been working on the gateway signage report as identified in the strategic plan. At the regular meeting of council on June 8th, the draft was presented to council in order to obtain direction to begin public consultation. The plan was then advertised in the Taber Times and placed online on the planning website for public review and comment. The document has been to the Municipal Planning Commission for review and comment at the June 15th and September 21st meetings. So administration has essentially completed an inventory of all signage along our entry corridors with the intention of removing unnecessary signage and providing recommendations as to how signage could be improved and provide for an attractive and themed first impression of the town. If we could move to the recommendations, Mr. Armfield. Oh, I think we're down. One more. Thank you. So again, we've touched on the town theme and colors. We'd like to encourage that main theme, use that for our signs, our amenities, our public documents. Gateway features, we'd like to design and implement one or more gateway features at key entrances, which we've identified in the plan. Gateway landscaping and aesthetics, continued encouragement of gateway corridor beautification on public and private lands. So we would look to private landowners as you're coming into town to potentially tidy up, screen, and just do some overall enhancement of that corridor. Next slide. Secondary entrance signage. So we would like to consolidate and improve on that secondary signage, and we've got some recommendations directly in there. We have several areas where we've got different signage that is provided by community associations within town. Some of them are no longer relevant. Some of them, the websites are no longer in place. We'd like to propose on that signage that we would like to bring in, that we would consolidate that. So we could have our different community associations pay for their logo on signage that has a more comprehensive look with that gateway style to it. And then we would get rid of a lot of the secondary signage. There's a lot of clutter when you're coming into town. It makes it difficult for wayfinding as well as to just the beautification of our gateways. We'd like to revisit the downtown signage, add signage to encourage travelers to visit our downtown. Wayfinding signage plan, we would like to develop a harmonized wayfinding signage plan to attract people into town and guide them to key destinations, businesses, and services. And we would use this on all of our gateways into town. So in the areas of the Trout Pond, guiding people to downtown. We've spoken about pathway identification. It could all be kind of part of that wayfinding signage plan. So the intent behind this document is to provide administration with a guiding document that, once endorsed by council, can be used for some immediate actions in removing the signage that we've identified within the plan, with some longer term goals for implementation, potential grant seeking opportunities, future capital requests in order to enact things such as the signage. So I think that our lovely young planner, Rob, has created a practical document that can be used on a longer term basis and provide some enhancement and also help us with that sense of place that we're seeking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, Ms. Monks. I appreciate the fact that you did this document, and I think it's very comprehensive, and I think it stands in good stead down the road. It's interesting that I spent a number of days last week in Saskatchewan with my wife, and we both commented on all the ugly and unkept signs on these small communities around Saskatchewan towns, you know. That's not just Saskatchewan, I don't think, but it's extremely ugly. And I think you're making great progress here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did you have any feedback or comments from the public after the consultation?
With regard to this one, no, not so much. So one of our first processes will be to meet with the different community groups and talk to them about what they would like to see and how we can consolidate some of their signage and into a much more attractive entry feature, and whether there's some cost sharing with that and how we get that progress through Alberta Transportation will be how we focus our next steps on this. And I'm sure we'll be back to council with updates as we move forward, particularly if there's funds that we're seeking.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Firth?
I've just prepared to make a motion.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I move that council endorses the gateway signage document as a public document or public Town of Taber document.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.8, Municipal Stimulus Program. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, I'm going to call Mr. Orwa up to discuss this latest grant opportunity. And just for council's information, I believe our delegation is probably about 15 minutes away. I was getting a text message as they were passing through Coaldale about 5 minutes ago.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Orwa.
Mr. Mayor and members of council. So the government introduced a grant program called the Municipal Stimulus Program, which is popularly known as the MSP. Now, this is meant to fund infrastructure projects while contributing to the economic recovery. We have a total of 500 million that is being shared out there, and we've been allocated 1 million. That's for the town of Taber. Now, we are under a very strict timeline, and they've given us some guidelines to follow. Now, based on that, the senior leadership sat down and looked at all the projects and came up with a project that fits one of the guidelines. And these projects, one of the major, just ran through some of the guidelines. This project has to start in 2020, and we have a deadline of December 31st of 2021. So the time is too short to complete. So based on what the senior leadership decided on, it is administration recommendation to use this 1 million, the stimulus program, to fund the community center, curling ring, and Aquafan Center parking lot repaving project. So we just brought this one to council for discussion of further guidance.
All right, thank you. Any questions arise? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orwa, you mentioned the senior leadership team had looked at several projects. Could you disclose to us what those projects were and why you picked this one?
Now, one of the major reasons why we looked at all the projects, because with the guidelines that they have, now, first of all, one of the major guidelines we looked at was the project must also result in the construction of a major rehabilitation of a capital asset. So that was one of the driver. Number two, we looked at the project must not create new operational funding requirements. We also looked at that. At the same time, we were looking at some of the projects that might not lead to higher or increased municipal taxes, which was one of the guidelines. And based on this, we narrowed it down to one project that could be accommodated within the 1 million. But of course, it has to come to council for endorsement.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Orwa, could you disclose to us the other projects you looked at which would be eligible, please?
Now, if you look at what we had in 2021 projects, any project that, first of all, one of the guidelines, if you look at the municipal, I don't know whether if you could go to we do have the stimulus. This is what led us to this. Now, if you look at the recreation side, there's so many projects out there that could fit within this particular area. We also looked at some of the projects within public works area. And some of those projects, we bypass them because some of them are grant-based and some grants have been assigned to those projects. Some of those projects have been assigned MSI projects, grants. Some of those projects have also been assigned the federal gas tax. And if you look at the guideline there, anything that has been assigned those particular grants, we eliminated them. So based on them, we are looking at a project because they say the project chosen must also not have gone ahead this year or next year in the absence of the support of this program. So as we narrowed it down, that's why we came out with this particular project, because paving of the parking lot could not have been very close or nearby, or could have gone through in 2021 or even 2022. But it's council's direction in this regard.
All right, thank you, Mr. Arville.
Yeah, to add a little bit more support to what Mr. Orwa was saying, the item related to the criteria of this is not adding to operational expense. Really accepts out a lot of the projects, and specifically, I mean, we just ran through the projects, the capital projects of 2021, 2022, 2023. We just looked at our capital project list and then basically accepted out the ones that we're either going to, that we couldn't somehow meet the funding of, and ultimately this is the only one that was really left that could happen, could be started in 2020, finished in 2022, didn't contribute to any increase in operational funding that we could be absolutely certain of. It's a parking lot. We're not going to hire anybody to maintain it, that we're not hiring right now. So just through process of elimination based off of the grant criteria is how we reached this particular project, because all of the other ones almost exclusively don't fly because of the criteria around this grant. And the other item was that we could basically do one project with this money, right? We weren't going to be picking and choosing amongst a number of projects that were 300,000 here, 400,000 there. It was just one group, allocate high need, in our opinion is a high need, and administration's opinion, it's a need to repair that parking lot. So we provided a recommendation to council based off of the excluding all the other capital projects out of the running by the criteria of the grant.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make clear, this is not a criticism of administration's recommendation. I just want to make sure that it was fully studied and fully any option that might qualify for this stimulus program was looked at, and it appears to me that they were looked at. So.
It certainly has been, Your Worship and to Council, with the exception of the matter that we are going to be discussing later in closed session, because that was emergent late last week and was unexpected when we had this meeting 2 weeks ago.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Strauss.
Worship, is it possible that we could delay a vote on this until later in the meeting and look at the other item? Have a look at both projects?
Mr. Arville.
Your Worship, I would recommend if council wants to wait, which we certainly can wait until the end of 2021. Is that correct? What is there a timeline on when?
Here the timeline is very strict because the submission of this one is October 1. So we have to submit the project October 1. Once you pass that guideline, then you're just off the list. So we have October 1 to submit the plan. You have to submit a project what your municipality is going to undertake.
Your Worship, then I don't think there would be any harm in when we go back into open session after closed session, that if council wishes to make a motion at that point in time with regards to this funding, then the motion for this particular matter doesn't have to immediately follow this matter. And you can pass a motion to discuss this further after closed session.
All right, that sounds like a reasonable ask and or solution. All on board with that idea? All right, we do need a motion in Mr. Armfield's suggestion regard then to do so.
Well, sure, Your Worship, you don't necessarily need a motion. You can just bring it back up afterwards, but it just gives us particular direction to hold on to it. But you can have no motion now and then have a motion at open session after closed session if you so choose.
All right, yeah, we'll go that route. I think everybody's on board with that anyway, I think. That's what I'm getting. All right, we'll go that route. Item 6.9, IT security incident management. Mr. Armfield.
Yes, Mr. Abdel Khalik is going to come up and discuss a couple of policies.
Oh, Al, how you doing?
Sir, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good afternoon. So, the proposed 911 standards, I came up with some policies in the past. 2 new policies today, incident management policies. So this is a guideline how we manage security incident that occurs in the town of Taber, and I attached the policy and procedure for council. If you have any questions, be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approves the IT Security Incident Management Plan Policy CS-IT-9 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.10, Information Security Policy CS-IT-10. Mr. Armfield.
Mr. Abdel Khalik, go ahead.
Similar to the last policy, again, one of the 911 standards proposed. And this is a general security policy and procedure attached in for council. If you have any questions, I will have to answer.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Tams.
I have a question, Mr.
Mr. Brown.
I have a question here about the financial implications. It's unquantifiable due to multiple considerations related to possible council decisions. So if we pass this, is there any financial cost to it?
Right now, no financial impact on this. Again, that's just to meet the standards for 911, and for any equipment or any software, we have a capital project for the next gen 911. It's under the police.
Right, thank you, Councillor Tams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that council approves the information security policy CS-IT-10 as presented.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Do we now have our South Regional Stormwater Delegation?
It would appear that we have the correct gentleman gathering in the hallway. Yes.
All right. With that, we will welcome that delegation in. Item 6.1, Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee. Welcome, gentlemen.
Come on in, gentlemen. Yeah, if a couple members of administration here could just make some room for our delegation, that would be fantastic.
Just to clarify, do we have a couple of main spokespersons here?
I believe we do, yeah.
All right. Good afternoon.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Yourselves? Mr. Arfeld.
Yes, Your Worship, there is a presentation associated with this, so I would just, and we have it attached to the agenda. Reeve Harris. Just Reeve Harris, is it? You want me to drive through the presentation as you tell me when to click? Okay, that's good.
I'll introduce everyone first.
Just want to grab the mic there down besides you guys. That'll work. Perfect.
Merrill Harris, Reeve, the MD of Tabor. This is Gary Franz, the counselor. He's with SMRID anyways, past chair of SMRID. Mr. Mike Wind, chair of Tabor Irrigation District. Ron Hughes with MP Engineering. Chris Gallagher, the manager of Tabor Irrigation District. And Arliss Crofts, CAO for the MD of Tabor. We're here today on behalf of the Regional Stormwater Management Committee, which you've Mayor have participated in some of the meetings, as well as CAO Armfeldt. And as you know, back in 2010, 11, I think 13 and 18, we've had some real serious flooding issues in southern Alberta. And this committee was formed after Reeve Brian Bruin and Laurent Torrey, who was the former chairman of SMRID, got together trying to figure out how we can work together to alleviate some of the drainage problems using the SMRID main canal system to convey water. And the committee got a grant to do a study, and that's where Ron Hughes came in. He was the one that did the study that looked at drainage from basically Cardston to Medicine Hat and ways we could get rid of that stormwater off of people's land and out of the rural and urban areas in southern Alberta. One of the main parts of the study was the prevention of injury or death, protection of municipal and irrigation district infrastructure as well as private property, prevention of economic losses attributable to flooding, and enable increased agriculture production and future development. And that's really one of the keys is water security. We have industry in southern Alberta because we have water. And most of the companies that come here want to know that we have water year after year, not just every once in a while, but we have water for production of those crops every single year. And at what point do you want to take over this, Ron? Do you want to come and speak to the projects, or? Okay. I'll swap the chairs.
Thank you. I was here last year, I think, going through the same project. So the projects really haven't changed. But I guess just to refresh everybody's memory, because it was, I think, over a year ago, we have identified 7 projects to help alleviate the the flooding in, I guess, in southern Alberta from Lethbridge all the way to Medicine Hat. And in no particular order, they're the expansion of Chin, which is estimated at $39 million. These costs are all 2018 dollars, though, so they've probably gone up a little bit since then. The Horsefly Spillway, which is what we're here to address today, at $47 million. Expansion of Sherburne or Grassy Lake at $13 million. Converting all the drain inlets on the SMRD main canal, basically from a gravity system to an electrical pump system. That's a pretty small cost there at $2 million. And I guess further down east towards Medicine Hat, expanding Sauter or Rattlesnake, putting a spillway on that at $13 million. Expanding Murray, that is $25 million. And then constructing a dry dam on Paradise Creek, which really helps the city of Medicine Hat and the flooding on the Seven Persons Creek of $13 million. So I guess in summary, the report looked at how do we help get the water, I guess, from the farmers' fields, from the various municipalities, from the SMRD main canal into the South Saskatchewan system. So in total, we're looking at $152 million. So next one. So the Drainage Committee, they decided that the number one priority should be the Horsefly Spillway. And the Horsefly Spillway is located basically to the south and east of Taber, and then sort of runs, I guess, to the east side of Taber. It goes north of Taber, and then the water is put back into the Old Man. The Horsefly Spillway was, I guess, rated as the number one priority because it gets all the water that the SMRD main canal collects, I guess, basically from the town of McGrath to the town of Taber, and that water can be diverted into the river. Then the SMRD main canal is empty from this point on to pick up the water in the Grassy Lake, Bow Island, Seven Persons area. So the Horsefly Spillway was broken up into three phases. Phase one is the first phase to the north, which would be a spillway from the Old Man and then going back to Taber Lake. Phase two would be basically widening and expanding the existing TIV canal from Taber Lake to Horsefly Lake. And phase three would be expanding the canal from the SMRD main canal into Horsefly, and also construction of a wetland on Horsefly itself. So, like I said, this report it's been about probably about 4 or 5 years since the report was finalized. So in the fall of 2018, the committee applied for funding under the DMAF program, the Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund. Basically, they were told by the federal government that that fund was oversubscribed and wait until the government gets back to you. So in the meantime, in 2019, the program was approved for funding with the provincial government under the ACRP funding. And this last spring, I think it was about February or March, the provincial government met with the Regional Drainage Committee and told them to apply for the Canada Infrastructure Program funding. That your chances of getting approved for that are very, very good. So that application was submitted in March. So in July 31st of 2020, that was announced that it was approved for funding. So basically, between the ACRP, the Alberta Community Plan, and the ICEP funding, the regional committee has obtained 73.3% of the funding for the project for phase one. So that leaves a shortfall of about 26% that has to be funded from the parties involved in the regional committee. So phase one right now is estimated to cost, basically $22.2 million. ACRP will cover $7.4 million of that. ICEP will cover $8.9 million of that, so that leaves a shortfall of about $5.9 million. That shortfall also does not include any land purchases. SMRD and TID have stated that their contribution to the project would be purchasing all the land required to build the spillway project. And at this point, we don't know really how much that's going to cost, but as we all know, land in this area isn't real cheap. So this is phase one, which is from the Old Man going back to Horsefly. to Tabor Lake, sorry. So that's still phase 2 and phase 3. The DMAF people have been in contact with the Regional Drainage Committee here in the last couple of months. And I guess it's really positive from them. They're looking for big projects to fund. Horsefly is a project that the federal government really likes because it benefits more than just one community or one rural municipality. It benefits all of southern Alberta. And it has a fairly large price tag. And the DMAF people are looking for big projects with big price tags to fund. We haven't heard back from the DMAF people yet. They said the announcement would be made sometime this fall. They did ask some more questions here just last week. So things are still looking positive with the DMAF funding, and they will fund 40% of the project if it does get approved. But to date, nothing has been formalized under the DMAF program.
Maybe just to give you a little bit of history on, we struck up a committee the fall of 19, I think, to go out and talk to the MLAs and MPs to gain support for this project. They all were very positive on it, and they all, the comments back were to try to get collaboration of all the parties involved to help be part of this. And since that, and in going into where we are right now in the political things, scheme of things, and talking to the province about perhaps some stimulus money coming down our way, they are using this platform to sell that to the rest of the MLAs in the province as a collaborative movement, and stimulus kind of following the input from the counties and towns and cities involved. We all know that agriculture has probably pulled Alberta along in the last few years when the oil field's gone down, and they're using agriculture as the big stimulus for Alberta's recovery. And this is a big portion of what they like, the collaboration, and this is kind of the direction they're heading with a lot of their stimulus funding coming back. So just some of the behinds, what we've been doing to get these grants, and also the feedback that we're getting from the province and the feds on it, very positive on the project and the collaboration that we're using to get it done. So,
thank you. Any questions whatsoever? All right. Did you have another speaker or two that? Councillor Strauss?
Just as one more slide here to go. So, like I said before, there's a shortfall of about $5.9 million. So jurisdictions that have committed to funding the project to this date, that have said yes, and nobody's, I think, has said we're going to say this amount of dollars. So the MD of Tabor said that they are willing to contribute. The County of 40 Mile said they will contribute. Lethbridge County said they will contribute. Cypress County has said that they will contribute. Town of Coaldale has also said they will contribute. Jurisdictions, I guess, that haven't committed to the project as of this date would be Cardston County, which is where the committee was this afternoon to meet with those fellows. County of Warner, there's a meeting set with them for next week. The City of Medicine Hat, the Town of Tabor, I guess that's why we're here today, and the City of Lethbridge. So those are the jurisdictions, I guess, that have said that we think the project is worthwhile to go ahead, and the other jurisdictions haven't, made that commitment as of this date.
The other one that we're going to go see tonight is the Town of Bow Island, to get their support on this project too. The MLAs were quite clear that they would like to see everybody as part of this project, just to be able to sell this region as a good place to invest back in this stimulus project. So
All right, thank you, Councilor Strauss.
Your worship, I'll turn over to Councilor Garner. He's got the question.
Yeah, I had a
Councilor
question.
Garner.
I have a question for you. Currently, we have a dormant reservoir south of Barnwell. Could that be used with some upgrading to catch some of this spill water and alleviate some of our problems?
Probably it has some use. It would have some use. The majority of the water that we are picking up, though, is from south of the SMRD main canal coming this way, and so the Barnwell one could be used to collect some of the water. I don't know how I'd say it, but it's not a great help. Like, it does help, but it's not game changing.
Mr. Armfield?
Yeah, Your Worship, if you could just encourage the speakers to speak into the microphone for the viewing public at home, please.
Can do, absolutely. Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the Barnwell Reservoir, Councilor Gardner, in the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. That's all it is.
Good to know.
I'd just like to remind council that 2018, the floods that we had here in Tabor and east of here, basically the canal over by McCain's was empty, and we were pushing water towards 40 Mile. At 40 Mile, just before it dropped in, the water was coming over the sides. We had 40 high-hose on the side of that canal between, some before 40 Mile, but from 40 Mile down to Sauder, which is our only current spillway for the whole project, from Ridge Reservoir all the way down to Medicine Hat. And the canal being a delivery point for irrigation, the canal gets smaller, and for drainage it should get bigger, so that just the way it works. The other thing on 40 Mile that you want to know, or that instance when we had that flooding, we did dump as much water as we could go into 40 Mile at that time because the canal was not open because of snow going to Sauder. We went 2 meters above our full mark on that dam. 2 meters of water for the whole lake. It's a huge amount of water that we took, and that was just from McCain's to here, and had we lost that canal, that would have affected your sugar beet crops, your potato crops. There would not have been early seeding. Like, we were right after that flooding event, that same month, we were back in the field trying to get crops in the ground. So it's a bigger picture than just your local drainage. It's also your local and regional financial water security to secure the financial investment that we've had through Rogers Sugar, Hostess Potato Chips, McCain's, the other Land Weston, all very close to Tabor here and to the economy here. So.
All right, thank you.
So we have one more slide.
It's just a spreadsheet, a simple costing for a spreadsheet. I have it on the stick, just not on the slide.
Al, can you set us up, please?
So this really is what we're here for, what at the end of the day, what the ask is. This shows the municipalities who have committed to the funding and the percent that we're proposing that they would pay. We've had technical committee work on this numerous times, trying to figure out what's fair and what's equitable for everybody. And so the bigger municipalities, we're asking 15% cost share. The towns a 10% cost share, and the smaller municipalities, Cardston, Warner, Lethbridge, and Medicine had a 5% share, and that works out to for the town just about $600,000 over the next 3 years, and this is for phase 1 of the project.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? I believe Mr. Wind had something from the farming perspective he wanted to add here as well.
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
I guess from a farmer perspective, we the town of Tabor is just as important to us as the MD of Tabor is, and I'm trying to watch your faces here and saying, so what does this got to do with us? You know, we're in Tabor. This is an MD thing. Well, I guess first of all water flows downhill, as you well know, and so when the water hits the town of Tabor, there's only one place to go, and that's Tabor Lake. And Tabor Lake, when it fills up, where are we going to do that? So from Tabor Irrigations District, we're saying, okay, when Tabor Lake's full, it has to go somewhere. And so that's where we see this will be very significant for the town of Tabor. Because with you being a partner, you'll be sitting around the table and say, okay, that water is going to move, and it's going to move now. And I think it'd be better for the town of Tabor to sit around the table as a partner than as one saying, what are we going to do now? That's one significant point. Another significant point is that the economics of it all is that all our businesses, whenever a manufacturer comes into town, even if they don't build in the town of Tabor, the business is done here. And the mayor and I have had a couple of conversations about that. I said, what do we do when we build our business? We come to the town of Tabor and support the business here. So it's from a person from the MD, the town is just as important to me as the MD is, because they work hand in hand. So I see this drainage proposal and issue just as big for the town as it is for the MD, because inevitably, as most of you know, and some of you guys here, we're in irrigation. Everything flows from the main. It all comes north toward the Old Man River, and the town is, as well as Coaldale, is right in the middle of it. So that's the area where I think the importance for the town is there.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cross, do you have something to add from the MD as well? Mr. Gallagher from TID, do you have some points as well?
So, yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank the town for the collaboration that we already have in place with respect to your East Stormwater Management Facility that's going to be starting work soon. In that particular project, if you recall, I was here several years ago and talking about the situation that Mike was talking about with the east portion of the town of Tabor that inevitably drains to Tabor Reservoir, and there's a responsibility on behalf of the municipality that controls that to ensure that doesn't adversely impact the district, and we have a responsibility to make sure we have good quality water for our irrigators and that we manage our infrastructure properly. So we recognize that for you to accomplish your responsibilities under the Water Act, you could probably use a little bit of help. So we work together. We've worked together with your engineering teams, and we are providing the land for the wetland component of that project, and we'll have essentially a zero cost lease for that. So, and we've also provided a significant amount of time to get that done. And so for this project, we're looking at the bigger events. That first project kind of deals with up to your 1 in 25 year event. This is the big flood. And eventually that system that we're working together on is going to become overwhelmed, and there's going to be a need to get rid of that water. And the water conveyance agreement that we're putting together for the constructed the East Stormwater Management Facility will cover up to that 1 in 25 year event. The partnership that we're looking for now will cover that 1 in 100 year event. So it gives you that security for flood control right up to the big event.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising?
I might just clarify the split there a little bit. So we're seeing like the city of Lethbridge as not being a great benefactor of this project. We do see great benefit between the town of Coaldale and the town of Taber as being direct benefit of this project. So as we move forward and move on to other projects, your percentage would be lower if you're not a direct benefit of that. So just to kind of keep that in mind, this is in your backyard, and you basically can see it from here, or from the outskirts of the city. So that's why that percentage is 10 compared to the 5 of the outlying infrastructure. The other partners, sorry. Again, the MLAs and the MPs would like to see all of us in this together, and being a partner with this project helps them sell, putting more money back into the area for water security, which just benefits all of Southern Alberta.
All right, thank you. Any questions whatsoever? All right. Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Thames.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I hate making motions that are going to cost us money. That's, it's sad, but it's true. But I do see the benefit and the thing. But I think from a town perspective, we need to have some more discussion on this. And so thus I'll make a motion that the council accepts the information provided by the Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee for information purposes.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Traveling roadshow, Merrill.
Now we've got one more stop tonight.
All right, we're on to item 611, information to council. Mr. Armfield.
There are 2 items here. I'm just going to scroll down. And Miss Monks, I know that she kind of disappeared, but I'm not sure if she's somewhere. If there's any questions with regards to the first item, Miss Monks is working on that. That's related to the census. So you've got 2 items there for information. The first one is the census that she is working on, really from an economic development and community development perspective. That is what she's doing. And the second one is we received a letter from the Taber Library manager with regards to some funding that he's looking for. So we placed that into this information for council, and it will be up for budget conversation for our operating budget for 2021. But that is just, oh yes, and Ms. Monks is back if you have any questions related to the census. So those are the 2 items.
Any questions whatsoever? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council accepts the material received in this agenda item as information.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 612, Taber Municipal Police Commission report. Mr. Armfield.
You have for you the report from the Taber Municipal Police Commission. If there's any questions on that, please direct them towards me, and as a secretary, I'll endeavor to get the answer.
All right, thank you. Any questions at all? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Garner.
I can make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that council accepts the Taber Municipal Police Commission report for information purposes.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Firth, do you have a question?
I'm just going to make the motion.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 613, department reports. I'll go through them individually. If somebody's got a question, just stop me accordingly. First off is Human Resources Activity Report. Fire Department Report. Plan and Economic Development. Engineering and Public Works. Treatment Facilities. Recreation Activity Report. Finance Activity Report. CAO Activity Report. And Administrative Services Activity Report. No questions whatsoever. Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the council accepts the department reports for information.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Firth.
Mr. Mayor, the last month I have attended all of the meetings that I was required to attend, as well as the grand opening day festivities, and really enjoyed the dedication of the Ball Diamond and the grand opening of our new emergency services building, as well as the campground at the Tabor Trout Pond. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo Councilor First report. Same thing.
Thank you. Councillor Tams.
The report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Garner.
I attended the grand opening celebrations, and they were very well done. Attended the Thursday session of Council with Coffee. Coffee with Council. Did I say that wrong? Attended to the Tony Merkel induction into the Hall of Fame over at the rink there, and that was a really nice little ceremony there. Attended the Arts and Heritage meeting. Attended the Police Focus Group meeting that quite a few of us have done already, and attended Culture Day on Saturday in the park.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas.
Your Worship, of course, I attended the grand openings for the venues. Working, I'm on the board for the Alberta Japan Twinning Association, and we're doing Zoom meetings trying to get everybody, and it's difficult to get everybody together to have meeting, to have quorum. So we're having some struggles there, trying to get councillors together to get all this done. So, but we're proceeding ahead and trying to get our AGM done and outline some things for our conference here for next year.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
I attended the aforementioned activities. I've been involved with the Highway 3 Twinning Commission. I just left a meeting there, actually. Everything's on track there to move forward, and I was very proud of our town with the events we had going on this last month with the grand openings and whatnot. It's really good to bring the town together for those events.
All right, thank you. I also attended all the celebration events. Again, very well done and well received, I believe. Also attended a number of meetings as required. Some virtual involvement with the AUMA presentation this year. Also several media interviews as well. And that would be my report. With that, somebody prepared to make a motion? Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council accepts the mayor and council reports for information.
Okay, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6:15, standard item request. Mr. Armfeld.
And this is the opportunity council has to ask any questions of administration or give us any direction through the form of a motion.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm in a bit of a conversation with some residents from Signature Point, and we just need some, asked our administrator to bring up a map so that I could just see the borderlines between the town borders or the golf course border, if there's any town properties in there, and Signature Point. Just for clarification, because there's some confusion about just where the borders are there.
All right, thank you.
So on the west side there's some confusion along the golf course whether there's some town property in between the golf course and Signature Point. Does that clarify on here, Mr. Armfeld?
Yeah, there looks to be a right-of-way. Now this piece of property, somebody might, with better eyes, might have to have a look at that. Ms. Monks, can you have a look at that, please?
Because you're on our guest works, I don't think that you can identify them.
Oh, I see. There's no landowner. Okay. Okay. So you're looking to see, essentially what I'm hearing is probably who owns this buffer? I would bet that is what the
That's
question
probably
is.
what is under.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, you're completely correct, Ms. Monks. We can't actually pull that function up on this map then to tell you the land ownership of that. it's a FOIPable entity.
Your worship, is it possible, I mean, it's not anything that needs to happen here, that administration could clarify that and just maybe email it out, to council, and that way I'd have it as well?
Absolutely.
Do you need that in form of a motion?
It would be preferable if you could.
Okay. That,
All right.
Council makes a motion that that administration, is it a GIS map that we want, outlining the properties around Signature Point and the golf club and the Tabor Community Center area there, all the way around. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Any other standing item requests? None whatsoever. Okay. With that, just ask to recess till 5 p.m. for our delegations, please. Councillor Beckering.
Mr. Mayor, also move.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. please. And delegations number 7.1, Taber District Handy Bus Association. Mr. Armfield.
And I don't see anybody here from the Handy Bus, just as of yet.
All right, we'll move on to delegation number 2, International Day of Older Persons Declaration Requests. Yes.
Okay. Hello, Sean Bethke here, Library Manager, asking Council to declare an official day of the elderly person, International Day of Older Persons on October 1st, 2020.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Stravas?
Yes, Your Worship, just for clarification, we already have Seniors Week. Can you clarify the difference between Seniors Week and the Older Persons Declaration?
This is an official day that has been going on for many years. The UN started this, the International Day of the Older Persons. I think we provided a background in history there. It's adopted in 1982 and has been declared every year since. There's a list there. This is from the Alberta Council on Aging, a list there of the various communities in Alberta that proclaim the day each year.
Your Worship, I follow that, but I'm just trying to find out the why we're not doing this, why this is not being proclaimed like with Seniors Week, like where I mean there's already activities for Seniors Week, and why this wouldn't be brought into that. I understand you've got you've got this event here and whatnot, but I'm just why they wouldn't combine both of these. It doesn't make sense to me.
All right. Mr. Armfield, any information you're in that you're aware of?
So I would, I believe the difference is, Your Worship and the Council, that Alberta Seniors Week is a provincial designated week. It has more of a provincial flavor. And this day, if the International Day of Older Persons is driven by the United Nations. So it's a different agency behind the two events.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
To me, this declaration sounds like a people kind type of movement. Who came up with this International Day of Older Persons, and what is an older person? Like, what is older persons? To me, it seems very silly. This was declared by the United Nations in 1982. Older persons, it's always been called older persons? Yes. I've never heard of it before. On December 14th, 1990, the United Nations General Assembly, by Resolution 45-106, designated 1st October the International Day of Older Persons, and has been so since. So what is the definition of an older person? Like Mr. Beckering's an older person, Joe's an older person, Andy's an older person. I just don't see the point of it myself. I would support a Seniors Day, but not an Older Persons Day. That's my opinion. I think it's kind of frivolous and silly. It's using different terms for the same thing.
All right. Basically. Thank you. Any other questions arising? Someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am an elderly person, but I wish that Councillor Bruin would not point me out specifically on that. But I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that Council accepts the presentation request for International Day of Older Persons Declaration for information purposes only.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we still have no handy bus rep, I don't believe.
Doesn't look like. Alec, could you just have a look out in the lobby there and see if there's anybody just waiting? No, sir, does not sound like it.
Then we will move on to item 7.3, delegation disc golf. Mr. Armstrong.
Okay, gentlemen. Mr. Friesen and Mr. Thiessen are here to talk about a opportunity that they're looking into for a disc golf course. Go ahead, guys.
Gentlemen.
Hello, guys. It's good to be here. And it was a couple of weeks ago we were in here for a presentation a little bit about disc golf and what it's all about, what's good for the community. And I've been doing. I found out about disc golf since June this year. Fell in love with it. Same with my buddy here, and we have absolutely found that it is an amazing thing to do. Get out and just go and have some fun. I was out this today, and there was actually quite a few elderly from. Actually, no, sorry, not quite a few. It was only 4 of them. They came from Calgary down just to play disc golf in Lethbridge because of the courses. And so I was at a tournament yesterday in Strathmore, and I was talking to them about a disc golf course in Tabor, what they thought about the idea and the people that ran it, and they were very enthusiastic about it. And so we've asked that we could possibly have a disc golf course here in Tabor. Me with Johnny Thiessen here, we want to build that course if possible, and as presented earlier, if we could have some land out by the Trout Pond area, the municipal park area, we would like to set up a disc golf course for the town of Tabor. And along with that, we'd like to make it an 18-hole course. There is plenty of 9-hole courses that I've visited. I've visited 30 different courses since, and you can always tell that the 18-hole courses are quite a bit better because a lot more people make arrangements to go there. And from Calgary, people would actually come to Tabor, and I have friends in Calgary that would come down here, and also lots of people in Lethbridge. They would help volunteer to build this course. The cost is not great on a disc golf course, especially maintaining it, depending where the course is. If it's in wooded areas, there's a lot less maintenance that needs to be done. It's just you take care of it a little bit because their grass doesn't grow there, and once it's prepped, it's usually well trodden all the time, and if there's any debris in the way, usually disc golfers take care of some of that as well. So if the council would be so kind and give us a big piece of land so that we could make Tabor a fun place to come and visit for other people, that'd be great.
I guess you should maybe talk a bit about what disc golf is if they...
Oh, yes, maybe I should. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar what disc golf is, but it's kind of...
Just maybe to get you to move the mic in between you, at the very least, or move up to it. One of the, yes.
So I guess disc golf, I guess not that many people are familiar with it. We only found out about it this year, but it's kind of like golf. That's why it's in the name. It's usually played on a 9-hole or 18-hole course where you have different discs. There's kind of like golf. There's putters, there's mid-ranges, there's drivers. Each one kind of, I guess they go different distance, and then putter you kind of finish off because it's more accurate. And it's kind of like golf. You start off at a tee, and then you try to make it in the least amount of shots to the hole, which is in disc golf is a basket where you try to throw it into.
And the cool part about the disc golf community is 90% of them, they are all free. You don't have to pay for them. It's a recreation put on by towns and cities. Lethbridge is looking at possibly getting another course built for next year. And Medicine Hat has, I think, 3 courses, but they are 9-hole courses and in little parks as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Bruin.
I'd like to thank you guys for coming with your idea here. I think it's actually got some merit. Would you be envisioning something like a golf course with a clubhouse and, golf carts, or is it strictly walking? Or
it's strictly walking, yeah.
Okay, and how many acres would you think you would need?
I think they said, what was it, 2 acres per hole, roughly.
Yeah, 1 to 2 acres
Yeah.
per hole.
It depending on how grand you want to make the course. A tournament size course, 1 to 2 acres, and then it can be as little as 10 acres. But the good part about this is you don't need pristine land. You can have side of a coulee where it's not much used for anything else because it's walking anyways, and it just makes it more challenging for the disc golfers, which is actually ideal.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckering. Okay, we'll go through the queue here. Yeah, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, gentlemen, thank you. I admire your enthusiasm. Where's the closest 18-hole disc golf course from Tabor? And whereabouts is it located, please?
It is at the Nicholas and Sharon Park on the west side of Lethbridge.
Thank you. So you need about 2 acres per hole. So it's about 36 acres, 40 acres probably.
Yeah, roughly that. It can be smaller if it has to be, but that's what we would be looking at the first asking.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss.
Yes, Your Worship, to the delegation. A couple of questions. Is it set up like a golf course with par 3, par 4, par 5? Is it like a 36 for 9 and another 36 for the 18? Is that kind of the way it's set up?
Yes, it's very similar to golf. The idea of Frisbee golf did come in from golf, and so the shortest courses which you can make is only par 3s throughout the whole 18 holes, which would make it shorter. But then you would ideally want it around 30 to 32, even 36 the first 9, and then also the back 9. But you can go just par 3s if you want to build a little smaller course, which wouldn't require quite as much land.
So, in the follow-up question, so how many? What would be the total yardage for the whole 18-hole course?
I'm not very familiar with yards, probably feet more so. We can actually put them back and forth. So as long as it doesn't interfere with the next tee off so that there wouldn't be danger of hitting people. But roughly it's about 250 feet to 750 feet per hole.
Yeah, I believe the Lethbridge course is a 7,000 foot.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Lethbridge course is at 7,000 foot.
7,000 foot.
Yeah.
Not like a 6,000 or not a 7,000 yard. It's in feet.
Yes. So yards, it would be.
Yeah, the average hole on a disc golf course, I think it's kind of around 80 to 150 meters per hole. That's kind of it's a meter, so close to yards there.
So about 2,500 yards.
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Garner.
Just a few questions. Have you played the Barnwell course?
Yes.
What's your opinion of that?
It's a very good beginner's course. I enjoyed it. I have not bothered to go there in the last little while because for me to get the full experience, it's worth for me to drive to Lethbridge from here.
How many holes is that?
That's a 6-hole course.
Okay. Is there any concern about doing this right beside the trout pond and people walking, rollerblading, running, jogging, whacking them with a Frisbee?
Yes, there is definitely concern for that, and we would definitely stay far enough away from the path that there wouldn't be an issue for that.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bruin.
I'm just looking at your map there where you're proposing to put it, and I believe we're getting so congested there now with bikers, where there are bike trails and horses. And I don't know if that's the ideal spot for it, but I do like your idea, and we'd have to really look at a spot for it. But I'd like to see something go forward with this. I think it's interesting.
Just a clarification, guys, I did catch your presentation at the rec board. Good presentation as well. But I guess you just indicated that I just had a look at one of these Frisbees here on the weekend, and they're fairly weighty, right?
Yeah,
so you don't want to catch one in the head or whatever,
you don't
right?
want that in your head.
Standard Frisbee, no big deal, but these are like, what, 3-4 times the size of or weight of a Frisbee, right? So
and they have a sharp edge.
Yeah,
The drivers.
So I guess that's my question number one. I think you said at the recreation board meeting that you try to avoid people for the most part. So in this area, there's a lot of people activity. So you're looking for something a little bit secluded. And I think you talked about more bush location, trails, whatever, but that would be, so down on the bottom, somewhere near the paintball, I think you were suggesting?
Yeah, that
Paintball
would
area?
be very ideal. If that would be the course that we could make there, that would be a very ideal.
As opposed to being on top in the
Yes.
open where there's more
Yeah.
people activity? Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gentlemen, I know you're very enthusiastic about this, but give me a number approximately within the town of Tabor and area, how many people are enthusiastic about this?
Well, in Lethbridge, from what I played,
No, not Lethbridge, Tabor.
Okay, Tabor. All right, so there's how many would we have on hand here right away?
That we have maybe around 20.
Yeah, I would say 20 is a safe bet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Councillor Garner?
Just another question. Is this proposal that you're pitching to us or throwing out to us, let's say, are you willing to go in phases, like put 6 holes in now and see how it goes, and then put another 6 in if it really takes off, and then another 6 if it's really lined up and busy?
9 would be ideal. 6 is 6 wouldn't really be. It would be very hard to just put 6 in. I would at least like a 9 to start, and then if that were to be the case, then I would like the idea of, if we did start the 9, that the back 9 could be added onto this 9.
Okay, no, that's good to know.
But even just a 9-hole course would be fine.
A little background, I used to live out in the country, halfway between Barnwell and Tabor. So I'd take a lot of running around back out there. And I know that they do have that 6-hole course, and pretty well, I've never seen anybody use that out in Barnwell. And that's my concern, is are we going to put something in huge that isn't going to be used? And so that's why I opt for a phase process instead of getting the whole thing out there. And
I did talk to a guy yesterday, and if you guys would like his verification on that, I can give you his number. He's the one that put the tournament in yesterday in Strathmore, and he was saying they would be willing to put tournaments here in Tabor as well for the coming year if it was in.
And when there's tournaments that go on, like we've been to some in Lethbridge, there's a lot of people that come from BC, Edmonton, Calgary. They all come down just to play the tournament, so it would attract a lot of people if it was, say, like an 18-hole.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prefer to make a motion? Information purpose motion.
I can make that motion, Mr. Mayor. As soon as my
Councillor
computer-
Broom?
I would like to make a motion that we take the information presented by the disc golf course delegation for information purposes.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And still no indication of our handy bus attendees, as I take it?
It does not appear so.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would ask for motion to move into closed session, please. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, Trevor. Tabor Times. Any media inquiries? You're almost hiding behind the pole there, from me.
Just skipped right over it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Trevor. All right. With that, then I would ask for a meeting to move into closed session, please. Councillor Thames.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into closed session.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously.